Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Dana, the book production manager for Self-Published in 30 Days. I am so excited to have you back for another episode of the Book Nook, where I share book reviews and do impromptu interviews. And obviously, as I have someone beside me today is an impromptu interview day. This is my friend Tim Easton, who has so graciously agreed to be my first interviewee. Thank you so much, Tim.
You are welcome. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest guinea pig.
I love it.
I'm the greatest guinea pig in the business, greatest canary in the business.
You were the first person I thought of, so thank you so much. I'm going to start out, just by reading Tim's official biography from his website. American songwriter Tim Easton was born on the Canadian border in upstate New York. He spent his formative years living in Tokyo, Japan, and Akron, Ohio.
True.
Traveling early and often, he learned the ways of the road and rails and spent 7 years as a bonafide troubadour, making his way around Europe, playing the streets and clubs, living in Paris, London, Madrid, Prague, Dublin, and wherever he laid his hat.
We could do a whole podcast just on those last few ones. Yes, true.
Just on those. This was the period of time when he developed his songwriting style, folk-based storytelling and personal traveling tales, often peppered with bold confessions or tell it as it is reality. Rolling Stone magazine praised him as having a novelist sense of humanity.
They're so smart.
Wow. That's a lot.
I know, it's crazy, right? I've been looking back on it lately because of the pandemic and then working through Patreon. I have a Patreon page and that kind of helps me make a living. And I've had to look back a little bit onto my old journals and some of the things I've been through. And yeah, it's quite a bit. In a way, I want to say, don't get me started, when it comes to those years in Europe and busking. But as you can imagine, it was a very romantic, exciting time for me in my life. And it enabled me to be able to be a writer for infinity now, I have to say.
Which you are absolutely one of the most prolific writers that I know.
Well, in short stuff like haiku length things, focus things, songs and stuff like that, I do work a lot. We have friends, you and I have friends that are songwriter friends that might write 2 or 3 or 4 songs a year. And then there are those of us like Woody Guthrie, who's in the poster back there, who just, kind of workaholic, like, wrote 12,000 songs. We're just always writing lyrics down. And I'm not quite there, but I'm in between. I'm definitely writing things down often, whether it's keeping notes on my phone or writing in a journal or doing the morning pages. So I basically subscribe to that. Yeah, if you want to be a writer, then write.
Well, and I'd say you're probably catching up with Woody.
He's Woody Guthrie.
Kind of pushing it, so.
He is Woody Guthrie. He is he, and he's who he is. And I learned, I am standing on the shoulders and studying at the altars of just some of the amazing songwriters and creative people. Him being one of the peak ones because he also commented on social issues besides just writing about, romance and stuff.
Right. And I do like that you pepper your writing with social commentary.
Yeah, I can't help it. Sometimes I get a little bent out of shape. I'm like, I've been reading the news or today the news just comes seeping in through social media, your friends. Anytime you open your computer, it's, you can't avoid it. I try to be in a news blackout period. We're like, okay, these news outlets really want me to focus on this one thing over and over. And even when that thing's long past, they still keep going back to it. And you're like,
and it's nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible to completely filter that out.
Yeah, I go to Alaska. I go to Alaska regularly. But the cell phone works up there. Let's be realistic.
Right.
All this traveling I do. You can read the news. You're right. It's nearly impossible. Let's just say that.
But you do. I find that makes your writing, whether it be your songs, your poems, your blogs, I find that it makes it that much more interesting. and more
Yeah.
relatable. Maybe that's
Thank you. I'm just I appreciate it. I'm just kind of doing the best I can with with what I have, and I have recently applied to go back to grad school for creative writing just because I noticed when I looked back over my journals from like 15 years ago that I was contemplating it then. I was like, I don't like to be like the dreamer that never acts. There's no action. I like to have action in my dreams. I do dream out loud all the time. I'm always coming up with ideas. I probably have too many dreams going at once, too many. I spread myself a little thin, but I mean, how else am I going to get the work done? So I did apply to go back to school because I'm ready. I've already established what kind of poetry I write, and it's the derivative kind, and then my kind, and what kind of songs I write, whether there be derivative or my own path, and a mixture of all that. So I'm just, I want to remain teachable. So please, it's like, let's learn some new ways to do this. The pandemic kind of slowed us all down and enabled us to learn or completely tune out and get upset. And I've chosen to go the path of trying to learn something new.
I like that path as well. And we were talking about the pandemic, and you spoke about your journals, and that was actually why I brought you in today. One of the things that I've been doing during the pandemic is rereading.
Oh yeah, cool.
Things, and I know PC.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-COVID, you made a trip to Europe, to Russia.
To Russia, yeah. Specifically Russia.
Yeah. And you came back with an album of songs, of course, and a book.
Ah, yes. Before I left on the trip, the trip was given to me as a gift by the Forum for Cultural Exchange. It's run by Mary McBride, loosely organized, loosely associated with our the United States State Department. You don't just get to frolic around Russia playing folk music without being associated somehow with the State Department. And I also went with her to Bolivia. So these are two, very interesting places that I've always wanted to visit. And the Russian trip was a real mind blower. And I basically, about 2 weeks before I left, I checked in with No Depression magazine. The women that run that magazine, they are friends of mine, and they know me as a songwriter. But I wrote them, and I basically just gave myself an assignment. Kind of like when I went to Cuba to see the Rolling Stones, I called up American Songwriter and said, "Hey, I'd like to write a piece for it." And I just I gave myself the job. It wasn't about money. It was like, give me a word count and I'll turn this in. And that's what I did with Russia. I said, hey, I'd like to write a weekly, American troubadour in Russia article for your online thing. And I had an editor. Uh-huh. So I would turn in these big things, and she would trim them down so that people could read them on their phone and not go crazy. And I had and then when I got done, I noticed I had about a book's worth of stuff. And a lot of it was based. Also, the idea there's a book by John Steinbeck where he went to Russia after he was famous in Grapes of Wrath and all that. He went to Russia to check it out. Like what's really going on there. Like let's really tell the story. And it's pretty dark, but it's also really important that he went. And not many people know about that, but he has a whole journal about it you can read. And he's not BSing anybody about what was going on. And I went there. And I did the same thing. I didn't get into the nitty gritty of Putin and Trump. Putin who still has his job, Trump who does not. But when I was there, Trump was the president, and not one of those blues musicians. And I met so many great Russian musicians. I got to say, they really took care of me. They're really beautiful bands that I played with. Not one of them ever went down that path with me. They were like, yeah, so what's going on with your guy? Because, they kind of knew that their guy was potentially worse. Okay, there it is. It's on record now. We've said it out loud. Yeah. Your first podcast is super controversial. Your first book.
Well, it wouldn't be my podcast if it didn't have at least a little bit of controversy in it. So,
yeah.
That's just, we roll that way. It's cool.
Surprise, surprise, everybody out there. There's a little controversy, and yeah, the kleptocracy is dangerous. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to say this. I asked some of those guys, like, hey, do you have late night comedians that tear your Putin a new one, And they're like, no. I'm like, yeah, because we do. We have true freedom of speech in our country, and we have late night comedians that say what they feel like nightly. Using comedy to bring some relief to the situation of insanity and what's really going on. And so I'm super grateful for that. They do not have that over there.
Well, and that's
Yeah, they weren't discussing Pussy Riot openly with me. That just wasn't a thing they discussed because it was dangerous. I mean, she was poisoned. So let's just be honest. Very, very grateful I got to do the trip, but I was also a little bit nervous. I mean, I want to respect them. I want to respect those people. I want to respect what they've been through. The history of what they've been through, I'm not sure, it's really hard to comprehend really what they went through, And
knowing that we really don't have a frame of reference for that.
Yeah, we don't, man. Stalin, no, we don't. We were very fortunate in that we, the founding fathers had a few things together. Yeah, there were still people that were enslaved at the time, but they did get enough right that we eventually worked through that. And now we're just this nation in progress. It's super powerful, really, watching what is our growth spurts, and our steps back and our steps forward. While they just had, an entire generations were wiped out, like intellectuals, poets, and artists were just wiped out.
Completely wiped out,
Yeah, and it's a different vibe over there because of it.
Well, and that gets me to thinking about, you were able to folk Collusion. It's pretty much like a journal that you wrote as you were going along on your trip, and it ranges from poetry to what you did that day standing in line, and stamps that had to go on things before you could go anywhere, and then some more standing in line, and then there's a poem and some standing in line. But the book pretty much is a journal of your trip, with just written with your writing style.
I got the job because they knew I would be able to get along with people and that I wasn't going to put up a big fuss and start, the State Department did ask me to please, like, if journalists ask you about politics, please tell them that you're here to play music. And it wasn't like they were trying to censor me. They were just trying to keep everything smooth. That's their job, really. State Department employees aren't allowed to declare whether they're Democrats or Republicans. We all know pretty much where I stand, but I'm not over there on a soapbox talking about it. That's not what I went there for. I went there to play music, just like I go most places.
People are people no matter where you go.
Yeah, I believe Woody was part of this, and Woody kind of taught me this kind of thing where, you can actually go into a room full of people that might not agree with you politically, but have a good time playing music for them and entertaining them. So therefore, you might shift some thought processes on any side just by playing songs, and bringing a little humor in there. And, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that would say I didn't go far enough. And there's a lot of people that would suggest that was crazy that I even went over there,
Well, and I think it was probably just the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, that's why I got the job. That's why Mary McBride gave it to me, because she knew I wouldn't be too controversial about it all. And even what we're doing right now, we're saying right now, it's like, it's being recorded and all that. And it's going on the record. And it's like, well, what are we going to do? We have to go on the record about how we feel about things. There's a lot of writers out there that are able to skip over it. A lot of songwriters, especially in my town of Nashville, that are able to just weave right through that without announcing it, And then there are those like me that, because of my parents and my family and stuff, I feel like, and my heroes, and studying the heroes of my heroes, I feel like it's okay to have a position on certain things and say that you would like to have democracy. Doesn't sound that radical to me.
I don't I don't see a radical side to that either. It makes a lot of sense
Freedom
to
of
me,
speech.
but you know that we're kind of like-minded. That's probably why we get along a little bit. But
Yeah.
all of that aside, did you develop your writing style? Just for those, I know we've got some authors who listen to this podcast.
Oh,
and
yeah.
some, or some, I wish I was an author, and they want to know, or they feel like, who would want to know my story?
Right. Where do we develop? Where do we develop our writing styles from? I mean, it's from reading. It can only be from that. Like I love certain writers that are controversial, Bukowski, Henry Miller, and then on this side, I love the writing styles of like Roberto Bolaño and Hemingway, and they're all controversial in their own way, from whatever side you want to pick of the wokeness of it all. But there's definitely a style that comes into play, and I think it comes from your earliest teachers and the books that you love. You know, the more you read, the more words that go in, the more sentences that come in, and you learn how to form them. And that's where my style came along. I don't even know what it is yet. I think I'm still trying to find it myself, both in my songs, my voice, using my voice, using the voice of a narrator, some other person, whether they're trustworthy or not. And then with writing, I'm writing a couple of different things. Some of that are super autobiographical, like this folk collusion, and then some that are like these monstrous characters that I'm in there somewhere. But it's curious where do we get our styles, and as writers, I think you just have to start writing every day, and you'll sink into it. Some of us have to write.
Read, always read, you guys.
Yeah. I wish I read more.
And just write. Yeah,
that's what I would tell any student. I mean, I probably should read more myself. I mean, we got a lot of books in the house. They're everywhere. I got a new bookshelf for Christmas this year. I've counted. I think there's about 400 books in my house right now, because I'm like a numbers guy, and I wonder if I've read 100 of them. To be honest, like, I mean, I'm always opening up different. I try to read poetry every day, and I try to write poetry every day. The prose thing, I think where the rubber meets the road is when writers get into that second, third, and fourth draft. It's like, whoa, that is the kind of work that is real, that the real writers do, that I'm not very good at, patience-wise or attention span-wise, or OCD or ADHD or one of those things that I got. It's like, that's very serious, and also where it helps to have an editor. So anybody out there wants to be Tim Easton's editor and help me, it pays. It's like a almost union scale. I don't know. It's just an editor. Both those poetry books that you have, and that book had one person at least that was my friend or an editor that read through them, circled a few things, and said, "Hey, why don't you rethink this?" And if you look closely, there's still a few things that they've missed. Well,
and even so, and of course at Self-Published in 30 Days, where I'm the program director. Yeah, we have editors for people who want to self-publish their books. Good call. And we help them get that published. But yeah, so an editor, you heard it from a writer. Yeah, man's actually really a writer. Editors, good thing.
Yes, very much so. I mean, it's just like another pair of eyes that will kind of see it from a different angle, and also notice a few grammatical things or punctuation things that you just spaced on, and you're so used to it you didn't see it, or you repeated the word "and" twice, or whatever. These basic things that we all kind of do. That is the invaluable help of a copy print reading editor. It's like, it is a job that people have out there in the world, and in New York, everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's an actual job people have to read textbooks and books. But I say, to find one. And if anybody out there listening wants to work on that with me, I would gladly, hire someone for the bigger stuff, because, like at an hourly rate, because it's super important for the basic stuff.
Right. So just, I know you've got so much on the burner, so many burners burning, right? The house is burning down. You have so many things on the burner right now, but what's coming down the pike next for Tim Easton? We have another book in the works, or a play, or
a play? No, I don't have any plays. I started out with plays in like the 7th or 8th grade. I was like, I'm going to be a playwright. And then that was too much, and I got into poetry more. I'm always compiling the next poetry book. I'm working on a novel, and I am working on songs quite regularly on Patreon. I put up like one new song a month, but then every Tuesday I drop some track that's either a bonus track or something that I have from the archives of stuff that I have. So that's really, I mean, just to buckle down and write. I try to write a haiku every day. That's it seems easy. It's not. Certainly not good to write a good one every day. It's or not easy to write a good one every day. It's easy to do that syllable count and just dash out some words, but does it mean a damn thing? Is it worth anything? Or did you just dash it out? So I try to read a little bit every day, and I'm just constantly creating and trying not to get stressed out about the ways of the world, because that gets in there and you just kind of want to give up.
Well, and that's a tough one. And I do appreciate that you are continuing to write, because I do enjoy, of course, your writing in all the forms.
I think I have to.
So if you had, I want to be considerate of your time, but if you had one thing that you could tell someone who was listening who has a story to tell and doesn't know how to get started, what would you tell them?
Well, there are many books at the Barnes and Noble or at the library about writing, and there are too many. There's so many, and those aren't really going to help you, although you might pick up a few things from them. One of them is called One Bird at a Time, and it is a great, interesting idea. Like, well, just tackle it one bird at a time. If you have a story to tell, you have to sit down every morning and pick a time, whether it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and you have to work. You have to actually do the work, put the thoughts down on paper. So yeah, I can't do it every day for 30 minutes. I wish I could. I talk about it all the time. But yeah, we have lives to live, right? We have families, we have work, we get exhausted. So you're going to have to find that time. That's my advice. You're going to make that time. And it's just as important as eating breakfast or having coffee. You have to make it equally as important as those things. And it might just be a real quick thing that you do, but if you chip away at it every day, and I mean every day, yeah, take a Sabbath, take a day off. Don't read emails. It's weird. Yeah, actually, I'd say just start with today or start with tomorrow when you get up, and then the next day all over again, and try to spend 15, 30 minutes on this story that you want to tell. And that's the thing that comes to mind first. If you want to be a writer, then write.
I love it. Thank you so much, Tim. Guys, if you are interested, and I don't know how you couldn't be after hearing at least a little bit of this. This is just barely chipping the top of what Tim has to offer. He's such an interesting person. I enjoy you so much, Tim. I love to sit down and talk with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today. If you want to know more about Tim, you can find him at
timeaston.com. Right. Yeah, thank you, Dana. I'm really easy to get a hold of. Very easy,
You're not on any social media platform, are you?
I'm all over social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then timeaston.com is how you go on my contact page. You send me an email there. I'm the one who's running that. And yeah, I don't have a warehouse with a staff in it. I mean, I do have my daughter. She's maybe the
She's
future
pretty
internet.
good staff. She's
Yeah,
pretty good staff.
she does help. She's also my hairdresser, and you know, I got a little.
She does a great job. Great
Yeah,
job.
I'll take the hat off when I pick her up from school. But yeah, so that I'm really easy to get a hold of. TimEaston.com. Patreon is my favorite thing. I mean, I've said it a couple of times during this thing, but you might just hear a bit of this. But Patreon.com/Tim Easton is really like, it's been a great thing for me because puts me right in touch with those that enjoy to support independent artists, and also for a reasonable, like a $2 a month, you know.
Mhm.
It's like Netflix, except it's like Timflix. It's like $2 a month, and you get a lot of stuff. I think you could have anybody there testify that I'm trying not to send too much stuff. I don't want to show off or anything, but I'm pretty much dumping like an album every month or so.
Every month, yeah, I'd say probably an album a month. I only know because I'm a subscriber.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I just found a bunch
support.
more. Like I found a bunch more in the vaults and live shows, and so yeah, it's pretty intense. The next thing that's going up there is my the album that me and my ex-wife made one day, and New Year's Day we got up and we just made an album one day. We ended up using it. It was a gift to our wedding, to everybody that came to our wedding. We gave that album to them, and it's like Lucinda Williams, Chris Christopherson, Jim Lauderdale covers. It might be, yeah, well, you know, and then some blues stuff on there, and it's just really fun. It's this little album we made in one day, and that's going on February, yeah, or March, you know. Anyways, come visit me at Patreon. I'd love to show you what I'm doing there.
Well, thank you again, Tim. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. It has been, of course, a joy to speak with you and to connect again.
I appreciate
it. Everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'll see you again soon for the Book Nook.
Yeah. Peace.